Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignot, CEO of the Cultural Communications Agency, D-Flash. Each episode, I bring a different business leader from unique areas of business, and this episode is no different. I'm so excited to have Talia Goldstein, who is the founder of the 3-Day Rule. We're going to talk about love, relationships, and all the craziness in between. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Talia.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. So excited to talk to you. So the podcast always starts off with the exact same question. So Talia, what was your first job?
My first job was in advertising. I worked at TBWA Chiat Day, and I was on the Nissan account, even though I did not know a thing about cars. So that lasted about a year.
I get it. But you probably learned some things about like how to deal with people, different personalities, what you didn't like versus what you did.
Yes, I did. So what I learned is that I only care about love and people's love lives. So I would go to the Nissan corporate, and instead of talking cars and car photography with the execs, I just wanted to know everything about their love lives. And that was a very strange conversation to have because most people were avoiding the executives in general, but I would just sit in their office and ask them so many deep questions. And so it didn't occur to me at the time that I could make it a profession, but I knew I just wanted to know everything about everyone.
So you were a bit nosy.
Yes, but I was definitely nosy, but in a way where I just wanted to help people. It wasn't about gossiping. It was trying to, match them up and help them find love.
So it's a strategic nosiness. That makes good sense.
Exactly. And that carried on after I worked in advertising. I became a television producer. So I worked at Behind the Music and later True Hollywood Story. And I did the same thing. I would just give people relationship advice from my cubicle. I wanted to fix everybody up. And soon at E, people recognized that I had this weird talent. And so they started coming to my desk to ask if I could set them up. And so it was really around that time where I realized this could be more than just a passion. So for fun, I began hosting events so I could bring my friends and my coworkers together and just set them up in a big setting.
I feel like there's a story behind this. So we go from hating working on cars to going to Behind the Music. How do we get from there to where you are today? What was that journey like?
Yes. So I ended up at Behind the Music because I loved music and I thought I was going to work in music, and I ended up in television. And I worked at Behind the Music, VH1, then I worked at CMT, and then I ended up at True Hollywood Story. And I loved everything people related. I loved interviewing the celebrities. I loved my team. I wasn't passionate about the actual television production. But what I started to do at E was set up these really weird combinations. So I had somebody, for example, he worked right across from me and he was all tatted up with long hair and he was kind of a rocker guy. And I met this girl through my family who was a little preppier. She was Jewish. She wanted like a Jewish finance guy, but I could tell that she had an edge to her. And so I asked if I could set her up, and I paired her with my coworker who was all tatted up and was not Jewish, really nothing about what she was looking for.
A little bit of a different mix.
Total different mix. And they ended up married and had a kid. And so I began pairing up these strange combinations, and it was working. And so the events that we began hosting, I had a business partner at the time. We started with 20 people, and then it turned into 300 people, and then 600 people. And we were taking over these huge hotels around Los Angeles. So it was at one of those events at the London West Hollywood. We had 600 people. They paid to come to the event. And I realized there had to be something missing in the market. All of these people were struggling, and they were successful, interesting, attractive singles, but they were having trouble meeting the love of their life. And so I ended up leaving television to start a matchmaking company.
Wow. And so, matchmaking has so many weird connotations. Can you sort of like break it down in terms of what is it you guys actually do?
Yes. we're like recruiters for your love life. It is so similar to hiring a realtor or even a personal trainer. It's just for love. And these days, the average online dater is spending 12 hours a week online. So it is actually like a part-time job and it's exhausting. And so we just take that over. We do all of the interviewing of potential matches for you, and we just send you over the best ones. And it's really helpful to have an expert do that on your behalf, because we all have blind spots. And especially online, we end up swiping on what's familiar, and familiar isn't always what's best for us. So we sort of take that over for you, and we're presenting you matches that we believe are truly compatible with you. And your job is just to go on the dates. So we end up working with a lot of successful, busy professionals who really don't have the time to online date and want some extra help.
So, I think that, online dating has been a gift, but also a curse, because it went from like, oh, I went to a bar, I saw you across the room, we started up a conversation, and then, you live happily ever after. And with the onset of online dating, it's like swipe left, swipe right. And okay, this kind of looks like it could be fun. I'm not sure what this is. Is this a hookup? Is this going to be a date? Is this going to be forever? And so a lot of the personality has been taken out of the dating experience. Are you guys sort of like the kind of like fairy godmothers of us all, to try and find that perfect balance between getting the personality right ahead of time, so that when you actually get them in front of each other, it's a much more vetted date than it would be just kind of randomized?
Right. And you're exactly right that, online dating gives you access to millions of people. That's the positive, but people are judging too quickly. So pre-online dating, you might meet your significant other at work, but by then you've gotten to know that person, you've seen different sides to them, or maybe a friend set you up. But with online dating, people are judging too quickly. You're going through a checklist and you're making a snap decision, sometimes even before the date, but usually after one date. So what we do is we get to see a 360 view of who our clients are and who the members are. So we have a lot more information to go off of. And so it really does feel like a friend is setting you up. And I love that you said the fairy godmother thing, because I sometimes feel that way, because a lot of times we're helping clients on the back end navigate the beginning stages of the relationship, because we get to see what happens on both sides. And a lot of times there's miscommunication. So we're here in the beginning to help them get past the few dates, and then they're off to the races. But we play a pretty big role in that beginning stage, because oftentimes we're bridging the gap between two people who like each other and have no idea. And so we're like the fairy godmother helping them along the way.
Yeah, because I'll use my own personal experience. Like, I've had several boyfriends I've met on the online dating universe, but the one that lasted the longest was actually the one I met on Match, where you had to have like a long profile and it had all this information, versus the ones I just sort of swiped right on Bumble. And it's a crapshoot. And for busy professional women, it's a nightmare.
It is. And there's so little accountability. It's a part of the problem is you go on the date and you think everything's amazing and they ghost you. They have nobody to turn back to, where you met at work or even through friends. There was more accountability. But now, people are going on 4 or 5 dates a week and just cranking through, and it's made dating more challenging, I think.
Yeah. And, obviously in terms of dating challenges, we now have a global pandemic. So how has that affected you, your business and people trying to navigate love life through, this darkness that we've had to deal with?
It has been quite the journey. So when it all happened last year, honestly, I thought we wouldn't survive. I was so nervous about it. But within a few weeks, I realized that actually more and more people were turning to matchmakers because they were prioritizing love. So many people before were constantly distracted. They were filling their calendars. They were traveling. They really thought they were going to meet their person at the wedding coming up. And so they weren't really putting the time and energy into dating. But now people are home and they're present, and they are prioritizing love. And so we actually had our busiest year ever. And the
Wow.
great news is that people are dating intentionally. They are sitting with themselves and really figuring out what's important to them. What kind of quarantine partner do they want in life? And so while it's a little more challenging to actually go on the date, the people who are dating really are looking for a meaningful connection.
And another thing, I think everyone wants connection, but it's obviously been crazy, this past year. But it's also given you an opportunity to sort of really take stock of what your values are, what you want, and what you are out of life. As someone who's been single through this pandemic, it's been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
um, because it's definitely made me reassess, like, okay, what I thought I wanted versus, yeah, no, actually, I'm not gonna settle for that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of my girlfriends would say the same thing, where it's like it sort of forced you to reckon with what you actually want and not apologize for that. Because I think a lot of times, well, he's like 8 out of 10. Like, isn't it
Mm-hmm.
enough? And it's like, well, are you going to be happy with that? No. So, but you should broaden your horizons to find another thing. And just like how you would hire a personal trainer, or you'd hire a realtor to go find you your dream home. Why would you not hire a matchmaker to find you your dream guy or girl?
Right, exactly. I mean, the lists are changing. So they still have their list of what's important, but what we're seeing is a lot less of he needs to be 6 feet tall and more he needs to be caring and supportive and someone who makes me laugh, which is great. I think we're moving in the right direction because pre-pandemic, women especially would come to us with a list of 75 things they were looking for. Our list accumulates over time. And now I'm noticing, definitely people have lists, but those characteristics that really are going to matter in 20 years are the ones that are rising to the top.
And what trends are you sort of seeing with that? Like, is it that they just, more people want do you think more people want families now, or is it more people like, I just want a partner who, loves and cares?
Yes, it's more a partner that loves and cares, but actually, just in terms of kids, a trend that I've noticed over the last year or two is more people who don't want kids. Before, almost everyone that I spoke with, they wanted marriage and they wanted kids, and now either people are being more honest or they have decided through the pandemic that that's not exactly what they're looking for. But I'm hearing more people not wanting kids, so it's really not a given, and it's so nuanced. Everyone is looking for something a little bit different, which is why this job never gets old. I've been doing it 10 years and every conversation is so interesting because everyone's coming from a different background and they're looking for something slightly different.
Yeah, so I was just gonna ask you about that. Like, so obviously you have probably one of the toughest jobs in the world because you're trying to get two people who don't know each other to like talk to each other. And then hopefully that leads to something even more like meaningful and lasting and a life together, a family, however that may be defined. Like, can you talk to us about times you had a challenge? You're like, okay, there's no way I'm going to figure this out, and then you did.
Mm-hmm.
She's like,
Oh gosh, I have so many to
I
choose
have
from.
so
Let
many.
me Well, what story should I tell you about? I mean, I think the stories really that are the most fun for me are the ones where the clients come to us looking for something pretty specific and we pair them with someone different and they go on to get married. So the reason why I like those stories is if they were on their own, they probably would never have found the person that they ended up marrying. So one of my early success stories was this woman who came. She was amazing. She went to Harvard Business School. She was so accomplished, bubbly. She had gone on a million dates. Everyone tried to set her up. And she was very specific of what she was looking for. She wanted Jewish and no one in the entertainment industry. That's what she had decided after dating in LA, that
Oh,
she
okay.
knew she wanted, Jewish and would not date entertainment. And to make a really long story short, I paired her with a Catholic film producer in entertainment, and they're now married with twins. So those are my favorite, when they come so sure, I've done all the research and this is exactly what I do and do not want, and I'm able to prove them wrong. Like, those are my favorite stories.
So a Jew. Well, it is because you literally never know, and it's also like or what you think is familiar might not be what's for you, and what is surprisingly different is the best for you.
Right.
We
And
were
it happens all the time. This week, I had a conversation with someone who she's in New York. She went on a long distance date with someone in DC, and she came back and said, no, I do not, I'm not on long distance dating. I asked, is it because of this one experience that you've had that you've now decided you're no longer long distance dating? And she said, yes. Like, what if your perfect person is a few hours away? You can't just make these decisions and have limiting beliefs based on one or two experiences.
yeah, you just have to like kind of. I think the one thing I think that's kind of come out of this pandemic is we're definitely your patience is a little bit different in terms of what you will do versus what you won't do. I mean, I'll use myself as an example where it's like, yeah, like you don't have to live in Midtown Manhattan. It's okay. You can live in New Jersey, Chicago, California, because you don't want to limit yourself, because at some point, planes will not be as scary as they currently are, and you can make things work. Are you seeing more people doing sort of Zoom dates, mass walks in the park? Like, what are some interesting trends you're seeing on how people are trying to make dating interesting during this wackadoodle time that we're in?
Yeah. Yes. So one, I am seeing a trend that people are more open outside of their city. And I think that's because people can relocate. Now they don't have to be in their city. They can work remotely. So I'm seeing more and more people moving outside of the major metros. So that's one trend. And then in terms of the actual dates, I would say the majority of our clients are doing something virtually, a phone call or a video call, just making sure there's a connection, making sure it's worth the risk. And then if they deem it worth the risk, they'll go outside to do a walk or a hike or a picnic. Some cities have outdoor dining, they'll do that. But usually they're doing something virtually and then they're transitioning outdoors.
And is there like a number of dates you would like kind of recommend? Like, hey, like on like the third date, that be the one that's in person?
It's really up to the client and their level of comfort. We're seeing it's usually the second date or maybe the third date. Maybe they're doing a phone call and then a virtual date and then in person, but it's within a handful of dates. And one positive that's come out of the pandemic is people are not dating multiple people at the same time. Where previously they had, well, before that was very clearly the case. You would go on 4 or 5 dates a week, or, at least have a handful of people in the mix. And now they're focused on one person. So it's a little slower to start, but then they're all in.
Because okay, because do I want to risk my life to meet you? It's sort of like
right. It's a high bar.
It's a pretty high bar. So if I risk my life, then come on, let's at least be a little bit clear, have more clarity around it. And so
right.
And thinking about this and like kind of how many matches have you guys done now in like the 10 years that you've been in business?
I wish I had that answer. I don't know, but I mean, we've worked with thousands of clients over the years, and we're interviewing and doing at least 10,000 interviews a year.
Wow.
So just, talking to singles, we're like a walking focus group. That's all we do. So we have a team of we have 40 to 45 full-time matchmakers that are doing this all day.
Wow. So a lot.
Yes, a lot.
And I'm sure that there's never, and it's never the same, because you're getting more and more people every single day who are trying to figure out how to like live, because this is weird.
Yeah. And everyone's struggling. I mean, everyone comes and they say, well, my city surely is the most challenging. Well, they're all challenging. Dating is so difficult these days. And, with online dating and a pandemic. So most people come to us exhausted and they're really ready for someone else to take over.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I feel like, like I'm over the apps at this point. Like, it's just, I cannot. It's also like, I mean, between the level of fakes, marrieds, and all kinds of weird stuff. And it's just like, really? Like, this is what you spend your time doing, people? Okay, fine. Let's just hire somebody to do this for me, because no thanks.
Right, exactly. I mean, it can be done, but it really is incredibly time consuming.
And to want, like, we're already stuck working 90 hours a week, because now that we're home, everyone knows we're home. So, like, you're home all the time. What? Boundaries? No. Like, what the heck is that? But looking back on what you've been able to do with the company and everything you've accomplished so far, like, what would you tell 25-year-old Talia?
Well, so many things, so many things.
Lots.
But I would have told her, which is what I did, to just keep going, because it has been such a journey and a roller coaster ride. And I have endless stories of times where I really probably should have given up. But because I have always cared so much about the clients and my team, I never did give up. And that's the only reason why I'm still here today and the company's thriving. So I probably would have given the advice that I ended up, going with, is to be resilient and to not give up.
Yeah, because obviously, people have been matchmaking since the beginning of time. It's just evolved with the times, and you've been able to adapt in a way that fits the time.
Yeah, and I feel so fortunate that I picked something that I love. I won't go into too much details, but to make a long story short, I actually went through a tech incubator program. And when I got there, they told me to get out of the dating space because the dating space was so saturated. They didn't think I'd be able to succeed. So I listened to them and I shut the company down, and I launched a new company. And I had a business partner at the time, and we put all of our life savings and energy into this company that we didn't really care about. It was successful, but we weren't passionate about it. And so we ended up closing that company and relaunching 3-Day Rule.
Wow.
So in retrospect, I should have just stuck it out. But I feel fortunate that I picked something that I'm so passionate about, because it really does not get old. I wake up every day so excited to be a matchmaker. I think I will be an 80-year-old matchmaker. And so startups are hard, but if you're really doing something you love, it's totally worth it.
Well, that's the thing. It's about you. The phrase "do what you love" is not just something that is on like a little whiteboard you see at Pottery Barn. You have to do it, and because that's what will make you go through the crazy. When it's like, oh my God, it's so dark, I cannot believe I'm actually doing this. Like, because of the fact that you love what you're doing, it helps you put one foot in front of the other.
That's exactly right. It is baby steps. I mean, I've fundraised pregnant twice. Do not recommend that, although I feel that we have more role models now that it's a little bit easier. I didn't take a day of maternity leave. Unfortunately, I just couldn't. And so there were so many challenging times, but it really is only worth it if you're having fun. Otherwise, get a different job, because then it's not worth it.
Yeah, it's just not worth it otherwise. Because again, you have to have it. It's like I always say, if in your heart you wake up and you feel good about it no matter what, that's awesome. If you wake up and you have like insane heart palpitations, that's not actually good.
Right. Like, I don't get the Sunday blues. I cannot wait to get online on Monday. And quite frankly, I work through the weekend just because I really love it.
Well, it makes perfect sense. But since you are working through the weekends and you have kids, what are you doing to navigate your self-care?
Yes, I feel like the only thing that's got me through is my Peloton. I got it a few years ago, but before it was cool, and it really does help me a lot. So anytime I can get a walk in or a ride in, like that ends up making a huge difference. I started doing yoga with my daughter. She's 5, and it's so much fun. So anything active really makes a difference in my day.
So you beat the whole Peloton craze, and you're like, I was there before Shonda Rhimes got involved and Beyonce.
I know. I keep telling my husband, I am almost at 550 rides. But then he always follows up with, how many years have you had it? It's like not as exciting when you've had it for three years. Some
still a ton
people,
of rides.
yeah, I guess that's
Just
true.
saying. Just saying.
It is still a lot. No, I've had it for a while and I'm so glad I got it when I did.
Yeah, because now you can't get one. It's like a 10-week wait to order one. I'm like,
Exactly.
reals? Like, I keep going on the site, like, I will buy one when I know it will not take 10 weeks to get to my house. Otherwise, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of like spending that much money. Because like, if I spend that much money, I expect something to arrive at my house in 2 days.
Right.
So,
I know. I feel so bad for everyone waiting for it.
it's like, okay, fine, whatever. February now, and obviously, new administration, there's multiple vaccines. Where do you see the future of dating going now that we might be able to come outside from underneath like the quarantine rock?
I think spring's going to be incredible for dating. March, April, May, people are going to be so excited to get out there and connect. And I'm really hoping that this slow dating trend continues. I think that it will. I think we're not going to go back to the crazy amounts of dates that we were pre-pandemic. I think people are really going to focus more and date more intentionally. And the spring's going to be an incredible time.
Awesome. Well, yeah, fingers crossed for all us singles out there.
It's going to be a good year. I really have a great feeling about it.
Yeah, no, I actually do too. I feel like I definitely think this is the year that I kind of get it together, for real. Because it seems like it's time, and I feel like the stars are finding aligning in a lot of different ways. Where it's like, you know what? This is a good move.
Yes, ready to focus.
Just got to focus on it. And so my last question for you: do you have a give and/or an ask of the audience?
Well, definitely an ask. If you have any single friends, they should sign up for 3-Day Rule. And you have to spell it out, THREE, because I forgot to pay the subscription on the number 3 in GoDaddy. So it's 3-Day Rule, and anyone can sign up for free. You could be a client or you could just be in the free database. And I'm happy to give dating advice. I mean, you can DM me on Instagram if you have a quick question. I'm happy to chat. Or any female founders out there that want advice, especially, if you are pregnant or fundraising while pregnant. I have a lot of experience in that. So always happy to give advice around that subject.
Oh wow, that's an awesome give. Fundraising while pregnant, I can't even imagine. Like that's wow.
It's not that fun.
I can't. Like I said, I tip my hat to you because I have no idea you did that. It's bad enough on a daily basis for female founders, much less when you're pregnant. But a testament to your resiliency. Well, Talia, it's been such a delight to have you on the show, giving some good dating advice about where we're all headed, and fingers crossed that everyone who wants to be attached will find the love of their life in 2021 and so much more. And we'll put all the details in the show notes of how folks to sign up for free, and how to DM you on Instagram for those fundraising questions as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. It's going to be a good dating year.
Absolutely. And that is our show.